Right. Hi, this is Stuart Nachbar with Educated Quest. Today I'm with Andrew Laue. He is the director of admissions at Webster University in Webster Groves, Missouri. Webster Groves is a very mature suburb of St. Louis, home to the second most successful team in Major League Baseball history after my New York Yankees. And this is a very interesting place. And it's interesting in the investments that they've made academically. And it's interesting at how they've incorporated international experiences into an undergraduate education. Andrew, thank you for meeting with me today.
Of course, glad to do it.
Webster has an interesting selection of majors, especially in business, communications, computer science with cybersecurity, and even mostly in the conservatory-based visual and performing arts programs. What guided the university to make these investments that they made in these programs?
Well, probably, the start of this was probably, I would say, back in the mid 1960s. And when the university was transitioning from becoming a women's only smaller university that was founded by the Sisters of Loretto, that we wanted to kind of expand our reach and expand our offerings. And part of that, at least particularly in the theater program, is that we wanted to admit males, so it would give us some more of a selection of productions that we can use. So that I would say was kind of the genesis of it. We had a very entrepreneurial head of the theater program who had just recently come to Webster and wanted to kind of give the idea of that we're going to be a place that teaches fine arts for the real world, if you will, as opposed to the kind of you might want to call academic, based fine arts and theater. So it kind of evolved from that, the kind of timing of that with his arrival and the fact that the university was looking to kind of expand its reach, admit men, and become more of a comprehensive university is kind of what contributed to all that. But you're right, especially in kind of the fine arts and some more creative based majors certainly really took off at that time.
Was the conservatory aspect part of the school when it was only a women's college?
It was not. No, the conservatory, I suppose, actually started in the 1970s when it became a conservatory of theater arts. So, no, when it was founded, it really was. They were doing theater, but I don't think it was really formalized as a conservatory of theater arts until sometime in the 70s.
Have there been graduates who moved on to typically larger theater markets, like let's say Los Angeles, New York, Chicago,
Oh,
after
sure.
a degree?
Yeah. One of our more well-known graduates, I mean, Norbert Leo Butz, who has won 2 Tony Awards. He was a Webster Conservatory graduate. And then Kevin Miles, who does the State Farm commercials. He is a Webster graduate. Jake from State Farm is his
Really?
on-screen name. Jennifer Lewis, who has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and did several sitcoms, back in the day. Going back a ways, Marsha Mason was a graduate of Webster in the theater program. So yeah, there's certainly some names there that I'm sure that folks will recognize.
I'm especially curious about the majors in stagecraft, stage management, stage design, costume design, and construction. Those are very tough to find at any school that grants a BFA that teaches the theater. What was the impetus to commit to these majors?
I think part of it went back to kind of the original idea of starting a professional training conservatory program, which is that it's going to be very real world based. It's a lot of schools, especially smaller schools, might just do a general tech theater major, or even 1 or 2 majors, or design your own major. And the idea is that if you're going to do this as a living and you want to be one of the top people, in these fields, you kind of have to be specific there, because again, the large production companies, the really well-known Broadway houses, they want the best of everybody. They want the best costume person. They want the best lighting person. They want the best scene person. And so a lot of it was, we want to get specific here, while still kind of dabbling in those other areas. But I think it all kind of stems from the notion that we're going to provide a real world professional training theater, BFA only experience was kind of the idea, and it led to those specific majors there.
It's really interesting. Are there career development people who will help the students prepare resumes, auditions, interviews, portfolios?
Yeah, it's actually, I mean, we certainly have a full-blown career development office, because one thing I make the point with Webster is that first and foremost, we are a liberal arts university. So we have all those majors you would expect a comprehensive university to have. We have business, and we have history, and we have computer science and accounting and teacher education and all, and a full science program. So all those things you expect a university to have. But within our midst, we have this Conservatory of Theater Arts. And to answer your question, almost, I wouldn't say all of it, but a lot of that comes within the theater department itself, right? Because the faculty are still active professionally. We will bring in professionals to teach master classes. And we have the Repertory Theater of St. Louis, which is a professional company based on our campus. So their actors and their professional design tech folks that come in will do master classes, and our students can even work for that company. And so a lot of that occurs naturally over the 4 years, where naturally over 4 years, they're going to build up their portfolio and examples of their work and make those contacts and those sorts of things. So it does occur organically, but the faculty certainly help kind of lead those efforts and facilitate those efforts.
Now, with these majors, do students need to have a portfolio when they apply?
Yes, they do. It's a two-step process to get into most of our fine arts majors, where you apply and get admitted academically, but then you're right, you're doing an audition, or in the case of the design tech theater programs, you're doing a portfolio review. So our costume majors will actually, come in and present, work that they've done, whether it's sketches, production shots. A lot of them will actually bring in examples of costumes that they've designed and sewn together. Our lighting design majors will bring in what are called lighting plots, which is a schematic of the stage of kind of where the lights are, where they're aimed. Our sound majors will bring in maybe a signal flow chart and a sound plot in terms of how the sound is set up and the speakers are set up in a particular way. So we've had our wig and makeup designer majors bring in a mannequin head, and they'll plop a headpiece on there and show us what they've done. So you're correct. There is that secondary piece for design tech majors to get specifically into their program.
And are there any other majors where there are requirements beyond a completed application?
Yeah, well, the performance side, right? If they want to go into acting or musical theater or directing, yes, and there's an audition and they actually sing and do acting monologues for us. The music department has that, as well too. If they want to go into music, of course, they have to do a musical, audition for us, sing or play an instrument. And the same is true with the dance program. The art department does that mainly for placement and scholarship purposes. So they encourage a portfolio as well too. But I mean, the notion, I think, is that you might be understanding here, and what your audience to understand, of course, is the idea is that you just don't just show up and say, hey, I've always wanted to learn how to sing. This will be fun. Or I've always thought it'd be fun to be in a play. There is that secondary process because of the professional nature of these fine arts programs. That's why we have that kind of a secondary admissions piece.
Is film part of the conservatory as well?
It is not. Film is part of the School of Communications,
Okay.
which again does that major, as well as sound recording and engineering. They do animation, they do video game design, they do digital media, they have photography and visual communications. So they do not have a portfolio review on the front end. They do kind of have an informal back end process where about midway through their studies, the students are going to want to present the work they've done to this point, and the faculty want to make sure that they are kind of in the right major and progressing the way they should, and will kind of help them if they need to correct anything along the way. So no, the film department is actually part of the School of Communications. But you're right, some places put it in the fine arts. For us, it's in the School of Communications.
And some places they require like a portfolio, like some shorts and things like that. And
Again, we might ask for that for placement purposes. For in the we've gone back and forth with whether or not to require that, and we I guess we realize that some students don't have access to resources that other students do in terms of high-end equipment and editing software and digital accessories, that sort of thing. So yeah, we've kind of made it where they'll declare a film major or an animation major, but then again, if we have to, we might ask for a sample just to kind of help place those who have significant experience versus those who maybe are just starting out. So that's how they like to handle that.
so someone who has a good academic record, but a curiosity for this, no experience, they could get in, but they're going to have to prove they can stay in.
Correct, and that's especially true on the communication side, which is they don't require that secondary portfolio process. Again, fine arts, they do need to show some competency in whatever fine arts area they're going. It can't just be somebody who likes, I want to learn to play trumpet, so I'm going to be a music major. That's not going to work. They have to have a background in that, right? So the fine arts, again, there is that kind of secondary process that's required. Communications, for the reasons I mentioned, a little bit more open there.
There's a global citizenship program requirement. Can you walk me through that?
Yeah, the idea for that, first of all, it's called a global citizenship program because, as we talked about earlier, I think before we went on the air, so to speak, is that we do have a global reach here. We are a global institution. We value international education, and so the global citizenship program is going to prepare students, regardless of their major, to make an impact in our world, no matter what they're doing, what industry they're in, where in the world they're going to be. So the way the global citizenship program is we've identified basically 8 kind of competencies, the content competencies in terms of English, mathematics, science, arts appreciation, psychology, sociology, global understanding. And then within that, there's probably anywhere from 20 to 50 classes they can choose to satisfy that. So the idea is they get to pick and choose instead of just saying, oh, here all first year students take the same thing. We're going to give them kind of a menu of things to choose to satisfy those requirements.
So there's a core set of courses. Is there also a requirement to go abroad?
There's not.
Okay.
There's not a university-wide requirement to go abroad, but for some majors, it's going to be, I don't know if it's going to be 100% required, but it's going to be strongly encouraged. And if for some reason they can't go abroad, they're going to have to complete some type of project that incorporates global reach and global understanding. But like our international relations majors or international, business majors, we really certainly want them to do a study abroad experience, and most of them will, of course, but it's not required across the university now.
Um, Now Webster has global centers, but are there other ways to study abroad besides being at one of the global centers?
Yeah, we have partner programs like a lot of universities do. It's called our WINS network, Webster International Network of schools that we can do. So yeah, if somebody wants to go somewhere that we don't have one of our 4 overseas campuses, they can do that. If somebody wants to go to Japan and study anime, they can do that. If somebody wants to go to London to study communications or international business, we can arrange that for them. So if someone wants to go really off the board and go to, say, Australia, India, somewhere like that, we have an entire study abroad of us that can work that out. So we have our global campuses that are kind of owned and operated by Webster. Then we have our partner programs that a lot of schools take advantage of. But again, we have an entire study abroad office that can pretty much put together any type of overseas study abroad experience that a student would want to do.
How long has the university operated its own global centers?
The first one was in Geneva, Switzerland in 1978 is when it opened. And I think the impetus for that was a history and political science professor who was really, intrigued by the notion of global education and how much students can learn by studying abroad. And so kind of created that partnership. So it started in 1978, and then the other campuses came shortly after that. Athens is our newest campus, probably about 10 to 15 years old when that one came online. But yeah, we've been doing the study abroad thing for quite some time.
And with the centers, they have their own housing as well for the students.
Most of them do. Like Geneva has their own housing. Some we have to work with local housing on. So it kind of depends on what campus they go to and for how long. So we have partner housing arrangements at some places. But I know Geneva for sure has its own housing there on campus. Vienna might as well, and Leiden and Athens. I'm not 100% of the setup there.
Now, given the extent of the offerings abroad, what share of the undergrads take advantage of them?
It's about 30 to 35%.
That's
Yeah, it's a pretty nice number, and it's very there's a lot of possibilities they can do. The traditional study abroad experience is a semester, right? And of course we can do that, but they can even go half a semester, like 8 weeks, and then we even have shorter study terms. We have 2 week sessions that can do, and then we have week long sessions. I think that somebody can do. So it can be as short as a week overseas to as long as 2 full semesters. So it depends on what they want to do, what their major is, when they're going, and what campus they want to go to. There's some moving parts there, but we can definitely accommodate just about anything.
Is it possible for a student to graduate having spent time in more than one global center outside St. Louis?
Oh, 100%. But it is going to be depending on the major, and they are going to have to do a little bit of planning. Again, like our international, our global studies, international relations majors, international business can do that pretty easily. And just a straight business major, computer science, I think lends itself to that fairly nicely. So it does depend. It can be done, but not all majors could do it, is what I would say.
Yeah, I would think some majors they want the faculty to be in touch with you all the time, like a costume design or something.
Yeah, well, and in a lot of cases too, the faculty will teach overseas themselves for a semester, right? They'll go to the first semester. A theater gets a little interesting because the program is so structured right here in St. Louis that I mean, we'll do it. In fact, like we want our scene design majors, we actually will encourage them to study abroad. Or the design tech majors, we certainly want them to go overseas because of the visual literacy that comes with a study abroad experience, right? If they're a scene design majors, we want them to explore the museums and architecture of Vienna to incorporate that into their work moving forward. So performance gets a little harder, maybe a summer in London if they still want to graduate in 4 years. But again, we can do just about anything there.
And is it possible to go to Webster and never be in Webster Groves?
Um, with the overseas experience, absolutely. Yeah, someone could absolutely go directly to our Geneva campus from high school, go directly to our Vienna campus from high school, and spend all 4 years there. That is possible. Again, I don't know that a lot do that, but if they would, they would have to work directly with that campus. But yes, that is possible.
But they'll need a home somewhere. Like if they started in Vienna and they want to go to Geneva for a year, they still need Vienna to be their home, so to speak.
Yes, yeah. I mean, we have in the past have some majors designed to go to the various campuses, and those might be set up administratively, separately there. But generally speaking, you do have to have kind of a home-based campus, if you will, for Webster for kind of administrative purposes, so we can classify you as a study abroad, or are you actually transferring to a school, but transferring to another location. But the bottom line is the same in that pretty much any kind of international study abroad global experience that a student wants to do, we can do it. And it's just they need to be flexible, and we need to understand what they're trying to get out of it. But yeah, there's really not much that we can't do in terms of getting a student overseas or in one of these global locations at some point in their studies.
Just on a different subject, I was fascinated how the university community conceived of a mascot.
Yeah,
This might be
um,
the first school I've ever read about or
yeah,
interviewed.
the Gorlock. Yeah, So, so we started our athletic. The main campus here in St. Louis in Webster Grove started the athletic program in the 1980s. And one thing students will learn about our student body is that we are not just going to follow the crowd and roll out a falcon or a bear or an eagle or something, right? We're doing our own thing. Our
Yeah.
student body is very unique. They love the fact that they're unique and do their own thing. So we're going to create something unique. So there was a contest that was held in terms of what should our mascot should be, and one student submitted this kind of weird looking fuzzy creature that supposedly was a caricature of the first athletic director as kind of the backstory, and they had a contest and the students voted on it, and the one that won, of course, was the oddest, weirdest looking creature, right? And so that's the one that won, and then they sent it to like a professional graphic design company who cleaned it up, and it became the Gorlock, which is it's a mashup of several different characters, like a buffalo, a Saint Bernard, a cheetah. It's his own thing. He's not a gargoyle because he's got two horns, or he's not a unicorn because he's got two horns. He's not a gargoyle. He's his own deal. The name comes from the intersection of two streets. The university address is on a street called Lockwood. A couple blocks away is a street called Gore, and so that's the intersection of two streets there. Um, Interestingly enough, it's spelled Grolok, which is not how you expect it to be spelled, but they intentionally dropped the E from Gore and they took the C out of Lock. That was short for Lockwood. And the story I heard is the reason they did that is because they just want to remind people that we're doing our own thing here and that we're going to not be conforming to anything traditional necessarily, and this is what we're doing. So that's how he came about.
And the teams are known as a singular or plural?
They're the Gorlocks, plural. The
Oh,
Gorlock,
so
I guess, would be a single creature, single. We're the Gorlocks, plural.
okay, so the basketball team is the Gorlocks.
We're the Gorlocks, yeah, yeah. But
Yeah,
the Gorlock singular is the one mascot walking around at games and stuff like that. So yeah, I
this
guess that
one
would be the one.
fascinated me because it was like they're going to remember the mascot more than they'll remember any teams.
Yeah, yeah, and we occasionally will win we'll win an oddest mascot contest, right? Those pop up every now and then. Some radio station, I think in Arizona, one time had an odd mascot compass and a contest, and we're always right there with the University of California Irvine Anteaters, or
Or
the
banana
Stanford Tree or
slugs.
something like right, exactly. So anyway, but yeah, the Gorlock's kind of unique. He's his own deal, and then the student body likes it that way.
Last question. You're going to be welcoming a freshman class in a few weeks. What is something that is not there now that will be there by the time they're seniors?
What's there now that's not going to be the time that they're
What's not there now that will be there by the time they're a senior?
yeah, there's talk of starting an engineering program that's in the very early stages. I don't know exactly what that will look like, how that will start, how much of a partnership that may or may not be with, say, other universities, but we do want to kind of look at that and at least have the beginnings of something like that. So that is probably kind of one of the main things that could happen in the coming years. So
Andrew, thank you for spending the time with me and
sure, happy
introducing.
to do it. Yeah, my pleasure.